Hi, this is Smithia Ford. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and I'm a kidney disease specialist and owner of renaldiethq.com. I've been a registered dietitian for over 20 years, and the last 8 years I've specialized in the needs and nutritional concerns of kidney disease patients from stage 3 to dialysis to transplant. And I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about how to eat for energy with kidney disease. Sometimes people with kidney disease feel tired because of other reasons than eating too much processed foods or not exercising. So one of those reasons is typically anemia. So if you're anemic, make sure that you're continuing to eat iron-rich foods and taking the medications and supplements your physician has prescribed. But I want to talk about what are whole foods in our diet. Whole foods are the things that we're going to encourage you to eat more of. So you're probably wondering what those are. And those are items that are not overly processed. Processing removes some of the nutrients that the food has naturally, and sometimes these are replaced with artificial ingredients to mimic the nutritional profile of the original food. It's better to eat the whole food without the processing, or to eat foods that are less processed, so to speak. So what are some examples? Whole grain versus white flour, for example. Nutrients like fiber and B vitamins are removed in the processing to make the white or all-purpose flour that we're used to seeing, and then vitamins are added back to meet governmental guidelines for nutrition. It's better to eat the whole grain, which is less processed and still has that fiber and those nutrients that were naturally in it. Or apple juice versus apples. Apples contain fiber and other nutrients that are lost when an apple is turned into apple juice and then pasteurized. A whole apple takes you a little longer to eat, helps you feel more full, and is likely fewer calories than you would drink in a cup of juice because a serving is 4 ounces and most people take in way more than that. So try to eat foods that the ingredient list is 5 or less, and you can pronounce all the foods on the ingredient list. Most whole foods don't even contain a label, like fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, and eggs. So another piece of advice I'd like to give you is to eat a rainbow of foods. Our standard American diet is mainly processed and lacks color and texture. So think of your typical meal. Chicken is brown, potatoes or rice are white, and corn or green beans lack a little bit nutritionally, especially if you eat just those couple of items. So look at your plate and make sure it's colorful, not that bland beige color. Consuming a variety of fresh or frozen fruits and vegetables means you're getting fiber that you need and a supply of vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that can't be supplied in a multivitamin. So think about your plate and make your plate about 1/4 protein and the rest of it fruits and vegetables. Eat fruit for dessert if you want something sweet. Just make sure that it's a whole fruit. So your cooking method is also important. Steaming vegetables means they retain more nutrients than boiling them. Eating them fresh without cooking, like in a salad or as a snack, is the best way to enjoy all the nutrition that they provide. So how can you get started on changing your diet? Check out your local farmers market to buy in-season fruits and vegetables. Get to know your farmers. Learn more about the items that are grown. Many farmers are not certified organic because that's expensive, but they do follow many of the best practices like using fewer pesticides and chemicals to grow the food. Read your ingredient labels. Read your food labels, ingredients especially. Ingredients are listed in the United States, at least, in order of the most volume in the recipe. So if something has a type of sugar or sodium in the first 5 ingredients, it's likely a more processed food and higher in sugar. Eating at home and making dishes, like I said, 5 ingredients or less from scratch more often than you eat out at fast food or quick service restaurants. I have lots of simple recipes on my website, like Sarah mentioned, in small portions, just 2 to 4 servings. And talk to your family and friends about your desire to change. Ask for their help and support to keep you on track and when you have group gatherings. So let's talk about kidney disease friendly whole foods. Since nutritional recommendations vary based on your stage of kidney disease, please continue to follow whatever guidelines your dietitian provided to you for your specific needs. But incorporate more whole foods that are less processed. Start by looking for foods in their natural state, like in the produce section of the store or the farmer's market. Eating a spinach and lettuce salad with a fresh grilled chicken breast, some nuts or seeds like walnuts, a fresh pear, and a vinaigrette dressing that you mixed at home is a better meal than a breaded chicken breast, some rice, and some green beans. So I do have a vinaigrette dressing and recipe with some fresh berries on my website that Natalia will send out in the follow-up emails. So you'll have access to that as an example. And I encourage you to use less salt and more flavor. Use salt-free spices. Think about using like red pepper flakes for a zing instead of salt. So I want to finish out by talking about how change happens and how you can create magical meals. Sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it happens a little bit at a time. Wilson talked about just taking a couple steps and then the next day taking a few more. Jen talked about that too. And I just want to encourage you to pick just one or two things. Don't go all overboard and try to make those changes, and every day will be a little better.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Sarah.
Wilson, isn't that exactly the kind of advice on nutrition you were hoping for so long ago before you started all this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, because the thing is just getting diagnosed, it was overwhelming with, and you think you have to change 180 degrees, like change everything about your diet. And, I figured out, that is maybe a recipe for disaster. But if you incorporate things one step at a time, maybe for myself, it was once a week, either taking away something or adding something. Yeah. That made it a gradual progress. And all of a sudden you look back and it's like 6 months and you're like, whoa, I changed all of this. Like, whoa. Yeah. And that's where the transformation starts.
Yeah. And absolutely. As a health coach, I can confirm that slow and steady is the most sustainable way. Those that think you can drastically shift everything overnight end up, disappointing themselves and failing. So it's all about those baby steps. Now we're going to talk about briefly what, when, and how to eat for energy. I always recommend just having set meals. A lot of people habitually snack, but it's not really so necessary. Allow yourself to have one optional snack a day when you need it most, but try to put those bags of chips down and all those temptations, put them away, and really just focus on a wholesome breakfast, a substantial lunch, and a nourishing dinner. Eating hygiene is important too, guys. Chew your food. You're going to recognize when you're satisfied if you slow down and take your time with your meal. Those people that rush their food, they often overeat because they haven't listened to their body's hunger satiety cues and to recognize when they've actually had enough to stop. And for fueling workouts, my favorite little tip is to have something simple like a piece of fruit and some nuts before your workout, just to give you that bit of energy to climb those stairs or go for that light jog. And then afterwards have something with a bit of protein in it. If you're someone that likes to have boiled eggs or something after you work out, that's a great way to repair any muscle tissues that have been damaged during your workout, give you that extra energy. So we've come to almost the end of our webinar. We're going to be doing more of these in the new year. So stay tuned in January and February of 2019, where we dive deeper into the kidney diet. We're looking for your feedback as well after this webinar. So please tell us what you thought, if you'd like to hear something else next time, what your favorite part of the webinar was, or what you thought wasn't as valuable. Everything is really good information for us. And you can have a look at Mathia's wonderful recipes, as we've mentioned, on the Renal Diet IQ. We'll be featuring those and sending you some links as well. And if you've got any questions, please do reach out, coaching@livzo.com. And I guess now we're going to open up that wonderful question and answer section where you get to ask us your pressing questions and have the panel of experts answer them to the best of their ability. So let's have a look at what the first one is. Okay, let's have a look here. Natalia.
Yes, hi. So I'll join. I'll just upload some of the questionnaire. We have questionnaire submitted prior the webinar with our following at Renal Warrior 2016 at Renalmate. So the first question is about what are the good healthy snacks for the hemodialysis patients who are really busy, still working, and preferably they should be also diabetes friendly. So Mathia, Sarah, this question to you, what will be the best snacks that you recommend?
Right.
So I can answer that. With hemodialysis, you're usually concerned about fluid consumption, depending on the type of hemodialysis. So diabetic friendly is going to be more just plain water, and not sugary drinks. But snacks, I like to think about things that are kind of longer to digest. So you want to find things that have fiber and also a little bit of energy that might take a little longer. So I like carrots, I like broccoli, I like celery, any sort of cauliflower if you like that, cucumber. So taking those things and then adding a protein to it, like some nuts or some peanut butter, low sugar peanut butter. There's low sodium peanut butter. So peanut butter or some type of nut butter. It doesn't have to be peanut butter. That makes a good protein. I love nuts with that too. You also can have like instead of I like the idea of a bento box. So a bento box is when you kind of have this little box with a bunch of individual things, containers. So you might have like a 6x6 box and you have like 3 little containers in there, and you could put separate things into there. So you might put your lettuce in one container and then like some cheese or some nuts in another container, and then your dressing in another container. And when it's time to eat it, instead of it being soggy, you can put it all together and eat that just as a little snack or really quick. So I love that with just maybe some crackers, whole grain crackers, and some deli meat or shredded chicken or something like that, that you can just have a small amount of. It's already portion controlled for you. It's easy to bring along. You can stick that in your lunch bag. And so I think those are some snack ideas. And just start thinking about what you really enjoy, eating, but smaller portions probably. And I agree with the idea that Sarah said, where not so much snacking, really try to stick to more your meal times. Our body needs that time to digest and allow our stomach to empty, and then eat our next meal, so we can get that hungry feeling and let our body tell us that we're ready for our next meal.
Very well said. And it goes back to your point about whole foods. Make your snacks count and make them full of whole foods. So fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, things that come in their whole form versus things that are really packaged and processed. Because a lot of people think snacks are packaged foods that are quick and easy to grab and go, like chips and popcorn and things, right?
I have a question on processed foods. If I process my own food, is that okay? Like if I took shrimp and I grinded it up and I made shrimp, like is that okay? Like from a food standpoint, like if it's processed that way, if I did it?
That's a good question. I think, processed foods that are naturally processed, like you might make homemade pesto or hummus, right? That's great. You're turning something into something else that's even better. But the processed foods that you find at the supermarket usually have additives like preservatives, sugars, stabilizers, colors,
sodium,
natural flavors, sodium, excessive amounts of sodium, right? So these are the things that can really have health consequences if we eat them too often, and the standard American diet is full of this stuff. People really need to stop depending on it and go back to real fresh whole foods, like what Mathia was talking about at the farmer's market or in the produce section of your supermarket.
Go ahead, Wilson.
Well, I was saying I didn't know the science behind it. The other day I was processing some shrimp and I was like, I don't know if I should eat this, but but I figure, it's okay. I'm controlling it, so.
Well, I was just going to say, with hemodialysis, you tend to have a higher protein need than before dialysis. So your protein needs go up significantly just because of the loss during the dialysis process. So if you want something that you can take with you, if you can find a recipe for some nice little protein type cookies or snacks that wouldn't have a ton of sugar in them, and you can make up, 5 or 6 of them and then take those with you and use that as your afternoon snack,